I want to tell you how QHHT changed my life. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about quantum healing hypnosis therapy, and I wanted to finally give my take on my experience with it, answer some of the questions I see floating around online and on social media about this kind of new explosion of modalities for what some people would call quantum leaping. So I want to start off by giving a little bit more context before I jump into my QHHT experience and kind of how I got there. For those of you that don't know, my name is Dinah and I operate a tech business. We've been in business for over 3 years, generating over a couple million in sales over the last few years. I have a book called The 5 Toxic Languages that focuses on a lot of different things like, such as attachment theory, different type of DNA imprinting, and many other things that it touches on, but in like a more pop culture type reference. And then I have a few other things that I've done in the tech world as well. And I've now ventured and partnered with my boyfriend in a tech startup using AI and just have a lot of amazing experiences going on. And I don't want to say that this is all due to quantum hypnosis, but definitely regression. Past life regression, which any of you know that is an element of QHHT. So I'm going to dive into how I ended up being in a cubicle, working a 9 to probably like 9, if I'm being honest. So not like a 9 to 5, but like crazy job in finance in a cubicle, global operations, getting paid pretty well, but not for my time, being respected and living a life that I wanted to live. I had 3 walls I would see every day that literally made me depressed. I remember being at my desk crying and looking at people on social media living a life that I could only like dream of. And I didn't know how to get to where I was because I felt stuck for years. And I felt like I couldn't get unstuck and that there was everyone around me that was kind of saying that this was okay. You know, especially when you're in the corporate world, there's not a lot of people. It's almost like you're in the Matrix. There's a very few amount of people that want to fight the system. Everyone else is like married to it. Everyone else is about, you know, the social climbing, rubbing shoulders with the right people to get the right promotions. And I was in that world and I thought that was the rest of my life. And then I finally realized that there was more for me. And hey, to each their own. Some people do, want to live a comfortable life, and that's okay for a lot of people. But I believe that regression taught me what I needed to know, and it helped me. And I think that's why we see people like Steve Jobs. We saw people like, other phenomenal leaders, and influencers online that are big in the business world that have done things like this and modalities to really tap into their highest self. And that's what I'm going to be covering today. So let's start at the very beginning. And I'll make this beginning part pretty quick just for you to reference. So in the beginning, I basically decided that I was going to look out for somebody that does past life regression. This came about because I discovered Abraham Hicks online. For those of you that don't know, Abraham Hicks is essentially a medium that discovered the ability, which I've read almost all of her books and they're absolutely amazing, but Ask and It Is Given was a transformational book for me. And I realized that after I started listening to Abraham Hicks, life felt nothing short of literally an orgasm. Okay. When I say that, people think, oh, like sexual, but if you're into Tantra and you understand that sexuality is more than just a sexual organ experience, I started listening to her and I felt like all the truths of my life started to align, and that it almost felt like, when you just feel like something feels like pure truth, like untainted, unfiltered, unswaying truth. And so as I started to listen to her, the idea of past life regression kind of came into my hemisphere. And so I looked for someone in the city that I was at that did past life regression. But unfortunately, there was only one person, and she said she no longer does it. So me being the persistent person that I am that says, so I think I have a chance. I decided to be persistent. And for about 6 months, I kept following up with her, obnoxiously following up. So just saying, listen, I know it's you that I'm supposed to do this with. I need to talk to you. I need to do this experience with you. And I don't trust anyone else. And I want it to be you. I don't know why, but finally she agreed to meet with me. And the interesting thing is that we finally met at a coffee shop. one day. This was over 5 years ago. And she said, I want you to know something, Dinah. Because you met with me, before we even do any therapy, you're going to now see changes in your life. Why? Because you've now set an intention. And that intention is for change, and it's going to make changes that the future can then almost kind of feel the presence of those changes being stirred up in your life. It's like entanglement. If you're into quantum physics and you understand how quantum entanglement works, it's like the current you and the future you, and they kind of, obviously they're connected, right? So she said that you're going to start to see changes. And within 1 week before our own session started that we had put on the calendar, I was fired from my job. I was basically more or less involved in like the ending of a relationship where I kind of walked away. And all of this started just happening very rapidly. And it was a moment of clarity for me, even though at the time I kind of would be through my like emotional experience, like that I knew consciously, I knew I had to process, but subconsciously I knew that it was for the better. And I kind of just want to be done with the pain so I could get through the human experience and like get to the good part. So I went through this process of finally doing the therapy. And it was very interesting because I got a couple things out of it. After about a 4-hour-long session, I was able to go through a deep, deep meditation of over 3 lives that I was in. And if you're ever looking for why you're in relationships that seem to be unhealthy, if you're looking for understanding of why you feel stuck or why you attract certain dynamics in life, for me, it was the reminder that I wasn't worthy, the reminder that I wasn't good enough, things that had happened before I even had a say in my life as a child, things that would, that were in motion to put me on a trajectory. And we are not responsible for the things that happen to us, but we are responsible for healing those things. So it's like the saying, hurt people hurt people. Like if you are hurt and you hurt other people, it is your responsibility to change that. Otherwise, you are responsible for that part. So I knew that I wanted to change something in me to attract a different type of life and to understand what power I had that I felt like was more or less being suppressed. So as I did this, I got 3 fundamental things out of this healing, this therapy, this is past life regression. Number 1, I was able to envision my spirit guide. Now people think that this is like very woo-woo, but I can literally visually tell you exactly what this being looked like. And it handed me something. Now I wouldn't understand this until like 4 years later, but it was a glowing orb of light. And I remember holding it in my hands, seeing it glowing, seeing it, in my aura and like it being handed to me as a gift and almost like something that was already mine, but it was being held on to me until the right time. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, but that was amazing. Then there was also a point in which I couldn't go any further with an emotional experience that happened. And it was exactly the same feeling that I got when I would be like in relationships and experiencing vulnerability and intimacy with somebody. There'd always be a block. And before we did the therapy, she explained to me that you're only going to be able to go as far as you and your soul know you can go. You're never going to go too far. So those of you that are scared, like, oh, well, what if it's too much for me to handle? What if like it's too emotional? Just like ayahuasca and things, like you will always have your own built-in limits to where if you're not ready for something, you will know it and you'll end up responding to it. And that's a great thing because you'll know what your wall is, where you need to work on, what that shadow is. And so for me, I knew exactly where it was because it was a very vulnerable moment where I was asked to do something during my therapy. And I said no, that I couldn't do it. And I wanted to, but I knew I wasn't ready. So that was the second thing. And the third thing was, there were so many things that I got out of it, but I would say the last thing would be that the words of encouragement from like my past life. There was many lessons that I was essentially telling myself, but one of them was know yourself, know your power. And so at that time, I wanted to really dive into that and lean into that. Within 2 weeks after that experience, I decided to pack up my bags and leave my home. I found tenants to rent my house. And I moved to a new city and I had a new job within 2 weeks working remotely. And so I was one step closer to living this life that I had always dreamt of living. For me, it was like, I could feel the energetic shift in when you think of your life and you kind of envision, oh, well, that's not practical. Oh, that's not normal. That's not how you live your life. When you think of those things, you envision something, right? You envision like, oh, that's not normal to be, out at the beach working on your laptop and, that's just not, I work at a desk. That's normal. So when you think of like the practicalities of your day and envision what a day should be and your life should be, I could feel that starting to change, right? I could feel myself saying, well, life doesn't need to be at a desk and life doesn't need to be, in a city where I'm not thriving and life doesn't need to be ran by someone else's rules. Like I could feel that starting to shift. And cut to a couple of years later, I was a full-on digital nomad and I had started my business. And all these things, I feel like when I look back at the actual like past life regression, it was just like a path that was being slowly but surely cut away at, and me kind of just paving a way and not knowing that on the other side what would be there. But I did. And I think for anybody wondering if something doesn't feel like you're getting tons of reassurance. First of all, you're never going to get that around the people that are closest to you. So just know that, because everyone goes through their own awakening very differently. So if you're looking for someone like your partner, your mom or dad to understand what you're thinking, what you're feeling, it's very rare that they're even going to be on the same hemisphere, the same galaxy as you, because you are over here having questions that challenge like a normal school of thought, right? Something that's all around you. And quite honestly, what happens when you start going through this is that those people will start to lose their level of importance in your life to a degree, meaning that their opinions will be diluted and you'll start to trust more of your opinions more. This is all about the intimate relationship of yourself. As Carl Jung would say, it's called individuation. And that was my path of learning myself and me becoming my own mentor, me becoming my own soundboard, my own consoling, my own therapist, my own, all these things. And it sounds narcissistic. That's the furthest thing from the truth. What it is being so autonomously independent of your self-love and your generation of happiness is that you end up being a happy machine, a love machine, consoling machine of your own self, right? You can now be independent of adulation, of comments, of compliments, of reassurance. You can go into something so confidently because you feel it, because you're speaking to something that's more divine than you, because you're connected to your true self. And that's when the saying, know thyself, I think it's like Nietzsche something in Latin, but that's where this comes into play. That's why it was so important throughout history. It's redundant in history of know thyself, because what it's saying is know your power, know your higher self. And that's where QHHT comes into play. So I decided to come to Tulum last year and do QHHT. I found an amazing QHHT practitioner that was taught through Dolores Cannon. And I had studied Dolores Cannon for many years because I know everyone that's in this world knows her very well. She's very well respected. And people that train, through her practitioners kind of like, schooling and educational system are, some of the best in the world. And so locally in Tulum, I decided I would finally go on this mission to do quantum hypnosis therapy. And being that my goal of the year and kind of the common, I would say, ribbon that kind of was kind of going through every element of my life at that time that tied it all together was quantum. How do I quantum leap life? Because when you want so much out of life, you realize how much little time you have, how few, how 5 decades more of life is not enough, to get the things done that I want to do and experience. And so quantum leaping, there's a book called U Squared, and that also really changed my life. There's a metaphor that he uses talking about how a fly, when it's trying to get out of a window, will keep hitting the window over and over again, thinking that this is the answer. But it doesn't need to work this way. With quantum leaping, it's not about force, right? Like anything else, I don't want to be trite here, but it's not about the force you put into something. It's about listening to yourself and finding the solution that is meant for you and that is your path to your highest calling, right? And that's what quantum healing hypnosis therapy does. It helps you find the right path that you need to get on that will make it the most fluid I hate to litter this video with quotes, but someone said, maybe it was like, not Sun Tzu, but like maybe, universe is conspiring for your greater good. Like, when you personify the universe as like, of course this is going to happen, of course this crap happened today, of course this always goes wrong, you're personifying the universe as a bad guy. All right, perfect. So as you all know, we can personify the universe as the bad guy, but it's really not the case. The universe is, you have to start looking at it as the person conspiring, the thing conspiring for your greater good. And so using QHHT, you realize that that universal element that's conspiring is your higher self, wanting and pushing you towards the good things, just like anything else, right? That you realize that the change, the getting fired, the anything was actually the biggest blessing ever. So doing QHHT, I was in a deep hypnosis and I went back into certain key elements of my life where I was taught something that I needed to know, secrets of my life that I didn't quite understand. And QHHT really helps you give permission to yourself to then talk to a self that is in the future version of you, maybe that you get to in this life, or maybe one that you don't get to in this life. But the idea is that you have to ask yourself permission to access that. And the practitioner is not allowed to ask any questions to your higher self unless you say you agree. And you also, bless this therapy session that you do to make sure that it's bringing in the highest good. And lastly, you ask 3 to 5 questions before you start this therapy to really make sure you're getting the questions answered that you want to ask. And my questions were very intimate for me. But one of the questions I asked was basically, how do I heal my body? What healing does it need energetically? And the second, I asked many questions, but these are the ones I'll share with you, was basically what my future partner would be like, and like, how would we meet? And, basically, why am I not with my future partner yet? Like, what am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to do? This is the fun part. So this is how I know QHHT actually worked. Number one, when I was first put into this deeper level of hypnosis, I didn't think it was going to work on me. I was like, no way. I've done like past life regression, but I don't really know. Like, didn't know what to expect. But the moment I was asked permission, my eyes started literally like rolling back in my head. I kid you not. It was like, I was like, what is going on? Why are my eyes doing this? It was like rapid eye movement. And I asked myself, what healing do I need? And my higher self said, you need your sacral chakra healed. And I asked, how do I do this? And she said, my higher self said, take a stone that is brown and it's got iridescent colors running through it like a rainbow. And you're going to find this stone and you're going to place it on your sacral chakra to heal yourself. Now, at the time, I didn't know what this was. I've never seen this stone in my life. I didn't know if this even existed. The second question that I asked was my partner. And the answer that she gave me was that you're going to meet a partner that's in technology, that does what you do, and that the world would be disrupted with what you create, and that you would be a leader in the space that you're in, that you're working in already, and that you will build with your partner a business, and you guys will basically like transform other people's lives majorly. So what was the turnout of all of this? Okay. Amongst other very insane synchronicities of this therapy, when I Googled this stone, it was actually a stone that was in existence. I want to say it was a orange quartz, or I can't think of the term of it now. Either way, when I looked up this stone, it literally said that you can use it on your sacral chakra to heal it. Literally, guys, this is not something I ever knew or read. And 3 months later, in Tulum, I ended up meeting my partner. We've been dating for over 7 months now, and we're both in tech, and he is one of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life. And it was instant chemistry, and he's doing a happy dance behind the camera right now. But he is in tech, and we are quite literally working on a huge disruptive project that will literally change the world in AI and technology. And I am basically partnering as a CGO and future CEO, and he is my CTO of my existing company. So guys, what I got out of this was the most amazing, insightful information that helped me get where I wanted to go even faster. And being in Tulum, there's an energy vortex that helps hyperspeed any changes you're trying to make. So I just want to let you know, if you're thinking about doing QHHT and you've had questions about it, you could message me directly. I'm going to put my information below so you can chat with me anytime on questions you may have, on practitioners you might want to be referred to, or anything else that you might want to know about my experience. And I can create more content around my QHHT and quantum leaping my entire life. I hope you guys enjoyed this shared experience and you have a blessed day. Cheers.